Like I said, it happens, and hopefully some kids can learn from it, but just don't get caught.
I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No.
No. Okay.
But it's healthy.
Are you a big oat bran guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
You have a gallon of milk I can also take home.
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. It's a good morning indeed, because yesterday we got the news about the new arena finally approved by the city and the Thunder. And they want to open this arena up just in time for the 2029-30 season, if approved by the patrons of Oklahoma City. Or sooner, they said, or sooner. I mean, that would be cool.
What's that about? How soon? How soon are we talking? Are they going to enlist the population, the Oklahoma City citizens, to come together? We can all build it together.
Everybody take a year off and let's build this thing like the pyramids. Let's do it.
Hell yeah!
That'd be cool. Actually, that wouldn't be cool at all. That would be insane. But a lot of details
that'd be cool to work for free. That'd be cool. Maybe they give you a little brick with your name in it.
Yeah, you get to carve your own name into a brick. So it's going to be $900 million, which I think is about what we had thought. I thought I'd heard around $1 billion, so that's around $1 billion. And the Thunder ownership is going to contribute $50 million of that $900 million to it, which is a little small piece of the pie, but still not nothing. And from everything you hear, as long as this is approved, December 12th. Hey, if you want more content about like why are they doing a new arena, why is this happening, I recorded a podcast with Mayor Holt like a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. I can't remember how long ago that was, but we walked through basically every point as to why Oklahoma City needs a new arena, why it would be really bad to vote no for this if you want the Thunder here. And you should go listen to that. So, but anyways, there's no tax increase. Basically, it just continues the tax that's been going on since the 90s. And it's going to be really cool. From what I heard, they want this to be something that you can marvel at when you stand outside of it.
Marvel.
So, not quite marveling at the Paycom Center, but I think that this building is supposed to be something to behold from what I understand. So, what were your thoughts when you heard the news, Al?
Most to be expected. Mildly disappointed in the team contribution. In their defense, like if you look at other team contributions, on the low end, it's usually around 10% of the overall project budget. But to be fair for them, like if you look back at the costs of a lot of those, because that's the other part of this that I think is really interesting, is that the majority of the league hasn't built a new arena in a really long time. And this isn't the start of it, because we have had newer buildings recently. Obviously we had like the Chase Center. The Milwaukee Bucks was in 2018. I'm reading this off. I don't know this off the top of my head. The Pistons was in 2017. Golden One was in 2016. But then after that, like it's mostly older buildings. And so, 10% of what those buildings cost back then was much less than 50 million. So if you're just looking at like overall contributions, it's higher. But yeah, I was expecting around 10%, which this is under that. But yeah, it's if you just look through, like, okay, in terms of the cost of the building, which we right now is going to be 900 million,
Mm-hmm.
that would put it as the third most expensive arena in the league right now.
Yeah.
Like the only ones that have cost more than that is the Barclays Center, Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, and the Chase Center for the Warriors. Every other one was less than that, and it's because they were all built like a long time ago. So this should be like state of the art.
I thought Pfizer Forum was 524 million.
I am going by, let's see who wrote this. I'm on thunderwire.usatoday.com.
Get off of that, because Pfizer Forum was not that expensive.
Really?
This is almost double what Pfizer costs.
Really?
Yeah, Little Caesars cost was 863 million.
Yeah, okay.
Pfizer was 524. The Golden One Center in Sacramento was 558 million.
Yeah.
The amount of money that they're choosing to put into this building, they truly will be able to make this like a one of a kind arena. Like, this is not going to be cookie cutter. They are building it for the next 25 years, and they want to see the Thunder play in this arena in 2050, which seems just like blows my mind. Like, I'll be a 60-something-year-old man.
Gross. Sick.
Weird. So weird. But yeah, they're contributing a lot of money to this.
Do you think you'll still be potting?
I think that's the dream, right?
For you?
You don't want to be
potting when I'm 60 years old?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, what else are you doing?
Well, you don't have very high hopes for my future, apparently. What else am I doing? You already think I'm going to be bored?
I think that we'll be sitting behind a desk doing the post game show together when we're 60.
I do think like this arena, more than any of the other ones we talked about, like Golden State or Brooklyn, is going to put some pressure on these other smaller markets, because, like, for instance, you look at New Orleans, the Smoothie King Center opened in 1999.
Yeah.
They are also a small market. So theirs is coming up on like 25 years. And I think seeing a small market team like Oklahoma City commit like this is going to put some pressure on these other small markets. I mean, the Spurs was built in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Another small market. When was the Memphis? The Memphis. That was built in 2004.
Yeah.
So maybe they have a little bit of time. But yeah, I have a feeling we're about to see a wave of new arenas in the next like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And it does feel like OKC is kind of on the early part of that wave.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we're getting it done now, as opposed to these other teams, because I do think it's going to become a bigger point of conversation just around the league. Like, this is I actually read an article yesterday on The Athletic about this happening in the MLB, which is basically there hasn't been a new stadium built in like 30 years. And or I forget what exactly was, but basically a ton of teams are all of a sudden starting to propose new arenas all at the same time. And depending on what the market is, they're facing backlash, or, people are ready to do it or whatever. I think that's coming with the NBA, just because a lot of these arenas are like 20 plus years old.
Yeah.
And with the rise in the valuations of these franchises, you could see the owners like getting antsy and like wanting their arena to reflect that. I have a feeling we're going to see more completely privately funded arenas. Like the new Sixers arena is going to be 100% privately funded.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be more common because owners are seeing how successful it was for the guys in Golden State, like kind of building that like village around
Yeah.
an arena and having it kind of be an entertainment center and complex, and then they can get all the money from it. I have a feeling that's going to be more common going forward than it is right now. Because right now there's only like a couple. I think it's really just
it
the
could
Sixers.
be. That's a two-way street, though. It's kind of an interesting conversation because I mean, the city itself has like no leverage with the Thunder with regards to like, hey, you should pay for the arena, for our city.
Yeah. But I was going to say, if they did pay for it, they also have no like stake in it.
Yeah, they have no stake in it. But also, I think like the big thing with some of the teams, like not every team wants to privately fund their arena. If the Thunder did, they could do it. I think the city would be like, sweet. We would love it if you would do that. We would love it if you would privately fund it. But the franchise itself, I think with in big cities, like, hey, Philadelphia 76ers, where are you going? You guys aren't going anywhere. Like the city's not paying for this. You are not leaving Philadelphia under any circumstances anyways. So you should go ahead and privately fund it and not take money from us. So there's an interesting, because I always thought like, oh, wouldn't you want to own it so that you could run it and make all the money from it? Not every ownership group wants that. They already have their like own businesses going on elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's the desire of every ownership group to do that. Obviously, it wasn't the desire of the Thunder ownership group to do that too. And then when it comes down to it, like the city itself doesn't have the leverage where it's like, hey, the city of Oklahoma City couldn't look at the Thunder and say, hey, you should build it on your own. Where are you going anyways? And they would say to 45 different markets that are bigger than yours.
Hey, we are creeping up though, Andrew. I feel like every year we're bumping up a few spots.
You know what I mean though?
Yeah, I know.
And so like the places where they are going to be completely privately funded are places like Philadelphia and San Francisco, where it's like, seriously, where are you going? Like you're not leaving this market. Like there's just no chance that you leave this market. Now with smaller markets, I think it will be more unusual. Not to say that it couldn't happen. But I think it's going to be more unusual for a small market to be privately funded rather than publicly funded, because Oklahoma City, frankly, needs the Thunder, and Memphis needs the Grizzlies, and New Orleans needs the Pelicans. You can't, and so I think that those will be publicly funded buildings would be my guess. And that's like why that's why also I don't think the Thunder had a ton of pressure to contribute a huge amount of money to it.
Yeah, I do think it'll be easier in OKC than New Orleans. I mean, we'll see, what they decide to do, but I could just.
What do you mean?
Oh well, whenever they decide that they need a new arena and put it to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that would be a little more contentious than it will probably end up being in Oklahoma City.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it will be contentious. I think there's a few loud voices out there talking about how they don't want the tax. They don't want this. They don't want that. Those people, like, just if those people that are saying that remember what Oklahoma City looked like and felt like before the Thunder, like truly take a minute to think about it, because a lot of the great things that have happened in our city are results of having pro sports in our town. So like, don't do that. Don't be that guy. There's some people that just want to get attention, or they just want to feel like they think they're saying something smart. It's not smart. It's just frankly not smart.
It sounds like you're going to be engaging in voter intimidation tactics, Andrew. Is that true? When you go to the polls?
When I go to the poll, I've got signs already being made.
Really? And you're going to put your children outside of the polling place.
That's right.
These signs.
That's right. It's going to be great. December 12th. Be there. Be square. No, I mean, also, if you're wondering, can I vote in this election? Just take a look at what your trash can looks like, because if it says Oklahoma City on it, then you can vote. Because it's not
Oh wow.
necessarily based on like I live what it says. It says I live in Edmond, but I have Oklahoma City utilities. Well, I can vote.
Really? That's all it is? Do you have to bring your trash can to the
I gotta.
polling place
You
prove
have
it?
to actually have somebody push you downtown in your trash can. You vote from your trash can.
Wow.
But for real, like that's if you wonder if I can vote, that's how you know.
I do wonder what the split is going to be, because obviously this is like an off-year election, so usually turnout isn't super high. But a
Yeah.
lot of old people tend to vote in off-year elections because
Yeah.
what else is there to do? And I could see older folks being less open to the idea in general.
Sure. Yeah. They probably don't get a lot of information about it and just think, continuing the tax, whatever.
Right? Yeah. If you're just from the point of
I think our arena is actually pretty nice. I think I really enjoyed going to it.
a person who's been like once in the last 5 years, I like it.
I don't think
it's
there's anything wrong with it. Why do we need it? I mean, there's also people that have never been in any other NBA arena ever.
Right.
And if you go into another NBA arena and the one in Oklahoma City, you're like, oh, okay. Like the one in Utah, I went to All-Star game in Utah, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is so much nicer than what we have in Oklahoma City. And it's not like even close to the nicest one. The Brooklyn arena is crazy. It's seriously like a big work of art in the middle of Brooklyn. I mean, it is insane. It is so cool.
Now, based on based on some of the Thunder's past graphic design choices, Andrew, in terms of uniforms, how worried are you about what the stadium is going to look like? Can we trust them to make a good decision regarding the stadium?
That's a good question. Not gonna lie, I have some fears. Some fears, but we have some proposals in the chat. Let's see, where are they? Let's see. Oh, Robert Wood says, for $1 billion, will the arena look like the Vegas Sphere?
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. The Sphere is insane. Matt Noonan says he thinks it should be underground, and you should call it the Storm Shelter.
Ooh, the Storm. Oh, you know what? This is going to be the exact opposite of what Matt just said, but I would like, how in that Dallas stadium, the Cowboys stadium, Jerry World, they have like a ton of windows that are, I think you take advantage of that Oklahoma sky, Andrew, that Oklahoma sunset. And it doesn't have to be shining into the court, obviously, but on the mezzanine, if you could have a big side with windows so that when you're in there, you can look out and see the Oklahoma sunset. How nice would that be?
That'd be amazing. They have that in Utah, and it is because they have a sunset like at the mountains on this side, all these windows, and it is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It is. Seriously, I would stop. As like corny as this is, I would stop at that window and just look for like 5 minutes because it was just amazing. It was just amazing. So yes, I am on board with that. I think it's a great idea.
Great. Now the rest of it can be underground. That's fine. No. But that would be unique.
Of it above ground, and then the court underground. Actually.
Oh wait, I feel like that sounds like Lloyd Noble. Isn't that why everyone hates Lloyd Noble?
Yeah, but it'd be much bigger.
Which apparently they're building a new Lloyd Noble too, or at least they're talking about it.
I mean,
they're building a new
sports
complex in Norman. Yeah. So December 12th.
Go vote. Vote yes.
Encourage your family to vote.
Seriously, if people that you know are on the fence, just send them the YouTube link or the link to the podcast where I talked to the mayor, because I think he lays out a pretty good argument. I actually talked to Taylor Dickerson's dad about this. And he said that he listened to that podcast and he said he was on the fence and it convinced him to
really.
Yeah, that is a good idea. So
Okay, so one other aspect of this, I was just going to ask, like, we don't know the answer to this, but how much more they're going to roll out in terms of information before the vote?
yeah,
Because, I mean, it, one, in this digital age, Andrew, it's harder and harder to get information. So you don't know, like, how much of this information is actually getting to the citizens. But if there was a, like, concept art drawing,
yeah,
just something I could see visually, I feel like that would maybe help some people.
yeah. I think that's a good point. I don't know for sure if they're going to do that, but
Yeah, it might be too early for that, but
I think they should have something like a good idea of like where, because I think they have a good idea of where it's going to go, but they haven't like solidified that or anything.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if they will before they get the yes. So, but yeah, I think some kind of concept art would be cool.
And it can be fake. It just has to look cool.
It just has to look awesome. And then if it's completely different whenever you build it, fine. Errors. We got to get this voted yes so that we can do the post-game show for the Thunder whenever we're 60 years old. Okay? That's all. That's all we want.
That's all Andrew wants. I
don't-
might have things to do. I might get into fly fishing by the time I'm 60 years old.
Fly fish. You can fly fish during the day.
Nope, you got to get out there early, Andrew. You got to get out there early when the fish are biting.
You can get out there early and still hang out with me at the Thunder games at night. It's not that hard. Come on. Okay, Al, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our Summers of Sam with 2020. Oh my gosh, this one is insane. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. Al, the summer of 2020 was insane. So if you are a new listener, last summer we went through all the summers up through 2019. We were grading Sam's moves, kind of reviewing what happened that summer and talking through it. And this might be the most eventful summer of Sam's tenure. This was an insane summer for many reasons. One, we were in the middle of a pandemic and the team got blown up. They were in the bubble. Then the team got blown up. We did the draft all virtually. There was no summer league. They essentially like did the draft and then training camp was like a couple weeks later. I mean, it was an insane time with insane moves. It just all was so compact. It was a wild time to be podcasting because it felt like I was doing a new podcast every like 10 minutes because of everything that was happening. But let's break it down, Al.
Yeah. So, and the reason we didn't do this one last year, we just didn't feel like there was enough time between when we were talking about it and when it happened. So now we've had a little bit of time.
Yeah.
It's very funny. All of these trades happened in November because of the way the season's set up.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at what they did in the draft, what he did in free agency, and what he did as far as trades. And because this summer had so many trades, I'm actually going to have Andrew grade each individual trade, but we'll get to that. First, I want to give some background. So this summer, they're coming off the PG and Rush trades. They just had their first season with SGA. They came into that season with a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs.
Everybody remembers the graphic.
Yes. Definitely Chris Paul remembers it. And then we had the COVID game in Oklahoma City with Rudy Gobert. Obviously, season gets shut down. They finish as the 5th seed at 44-28. They lose to Houston the first round, 7 games. Did you know in that series, CP3 became the oldest player to record a triple-double? I'd forgotten about that. And then Dort, one of 3 players, 21 years or younger, to score 25-plus points in a Game 7 playoff game. Do you know the other 2? LeBron and Kobe. So it's LeBron, Kobe, and Dort. Those are the 3 guys who have done it. After the season, you kind of forget that Billy Donovan was the coach for this entire season.
Yeah.
The team and Billy Donovan agreed to mutually part ways. He got off this sinking ship to steal some language from Jeremy Grant, and he went to the great city of Chicago, where last year they won the same amount of games as the Thunder 40 and 42. Congratulations to him. Great career move. And so that's basically what happened. And then we start this summer. So that was kind of like the background. And I don't totally remember what the mood of the fan base was, as far as was there any enclaves of fans who, like, coming off that season were like, let's run it back, like CP3 year 2, bringing the band back, Dennis Schroeder, the 3-guard lineup, let's do it again.
Yeah,
were there many people saying that?
I think there were people that thought they should do that.
Yeah.
I remember having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, either on Twitter or in person or whatever. I guess not in person, because we weren't in person with anybody, and I certainly wasn't talking to my kids about it at the time. But I would say that there was a contingent of people, and there was also other media that were like, hey, why wouldn't they just keep this going? Like, what's going on here? And a lot of it was that I believe the Thunder made a promise to Chris, and I think the Thunder themselves wanted to start over and knew that, like, this team has a shelf life. And you look at Phoenix, like Phoenix had their 3-year run, and then they had to let Chris go. So the shelf life of that team would have been pretty short, and then we'd be in this position where it's like, great, we have Shea and like a declining Steven Adams, who may or may not be able to play basketball, and you have Chris Paul and Danilo Gallinari, and do we have Danilo Gallinari anymore? I don't know. And you have the guys that you drafted, and I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting position to be in. Obviously, you'd be a better team floating along, but you probably don't have Josh Giddey. You probably don't have Chet Holmgren as a part of this mix, but you could have J-Dub still,
possibly. Yeah. I remember right after that season ended, there was an interview with CP3 at Disney World.
Yep.
Where he like, the way he was talking, it was very nice, but the words he was saying was like, I'm already gone.
Yeah. He was like, thank you so much for this time that we had together. Yeah. I'll see you later.
Which I appreciated, because for me, it just kind of like set up the summer. It was like, okay, so we're not doing that. We don't even have to talk about it.
Yeah. For sure.
And so that leads to this summer. Now, let's do actually the first move.
This is actually an autumn of Sam, by the way.
It is an autumn of Sam. November 11th, 11/11, which, by the way, is a very famous day in Oklahoma history. Do you know why, Andrew?
Everyone's making a wish on 11/11.
Wrong. I used to celebrate this day in my family growing up in Oklahoma.
Really?
Because on November 11th, 1911, Oklahoma set their record for both the hottest day on November 11th and the coldest day on the same day.
How do you celebrate it?
Really just bringing it back up at the breakfast table. Hey, it's 11/11.
You just blast the AC for like an hour, and then you just blast the heat for an hour. And so,
oh yeah, listen to this. Okay, on November 11th, 1911, remembered easily for now as 11/11/11, the afternoon temperature in Oklahoma City reached a record high for the date of 83 degrees.
Wow.
Before plunging 66 degrees to a record low of 17 at midnight that evening. Both daily temperature records remain unbroken and untied since 1911.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
That is wild. I didn't. Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, now you can celebrate with your family.
Can't wait to celebrate.
It's just one of those dumb things that like a dad brings up to their kids, and their kids are like, I don't care, Dad.
Yeah, definitely.
And I will be bringing it up to my kid who doesn't even live in Oklahoma. I'll make him celebrate. Okay, anyways, the reason I was bringing all that up is because on November 11th, 2020, they hired Mark Daignault as their head coach.
Yeah.
And, there were a lot of names out there. Who's the Will?
Will Weaver was the huge one. Yeah.
It was Will Weaver? Will Weaver. Okay. Yeah. I hear Weaver and I instantly think Kyle. But it wasn't him. Will Weaver
was Kyle Weaver.
Will Weaver was definitely a guy we were talking about a lot. I don't know if there were actually ever any rumors, but we were definitely not talking about Mark Daignault.
Yeah, we were.
Were we?
I was. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's obviously a great move.
Because he was an assistant coach for the Thunder and had been the Blue coach. And I mean, you knew the direction the team was going in. You were going to go really young. So yeah, I had kind of drawn those lines to Mark. Yeah.
Okay, so the only other free agency moves, we'll get done with free agency very quick. Melvin Frazier, Frank Jackson, Moses Brown. Those are the only other guys that were signed.
Shout out. We were kind of excited for Frank Jackson because he was somebody.
He definitely had a moment.
He was rumored to be the guy in the 2017 draft for the Thunder. I don't remember who reported it or how that rumor surfaced, but some people thought the Thunder were going to take him, and then they signed him, and it was like, oh, well, here's our guy, and it's to the like basically the Jack White contract, where it was, hey, let's get a look at Frank Jackson, and they said thanks, but no thanks.
Went on to have a nice little run with Detroit, and I don't think he's in the league anymore. If they had drafted him, that would definitely like fall in their pattern of like Reggie Jackson, Campaign, Frank Jackson, like just trying to find like these guards that can probably play with Russ, but also can be the backup point guard. I mean, it seemed like they were doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Back at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the trades now. To grade these trades, Andrew, we're gonna use a traditional scale, A, B, C, D, F. And to grade them, we're going to use past Presti trades. So, for instance, if you want to give one of these trades an A, that would be an SGA trade. The SGA trade. It's a obvious good trade. Every Thunder fan agrees that it's a great trade.
Slam dunk trade.
There's no real question about it. If for a B, we're talking about the second Melo trade. So a trade that if especially age is better, I would say it gets better with age. Yeah. So the second Melo trade is when they traded Melo to Atlanta for Dennis Schroeder, who was kind of a distressed asset at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He becomes almost sixth man of the year, and they end up getting a first for him. Ends up being a very good trade for the Thunder. Now it's not on the level of an SGA trade, in the grand scheme of things. It's a kind of a who cares, but it's a good trade.
Yeah, a lot of people were like waving stretch Melo. Remember that?
They were, and we remember your names.
Yeah, we do.
For C, we're gonna do the first Cantor trade. Now, this is kind of like a middle of the road trade where I would say like an equal number of Thunder fans would say it was good or bad. On the good side, you could say Cantor was hugely important for that run that they had in 2016, specifically playing against the Spurs when you had the two bigs with Steven Adams. He was very important in that series. And so for that reason alone, you could argue that it was a good trade. But on the flip side, you traded for Enes Kanter when you already had Steven Adams, and then you had to match a max on him.
Mm-hmm.
And you could have potentially had Brook Lopez. So there's like definitely some downsides to this trade as well. So it's kind of like,
Also, can't play Cantor.
Also can't play Cantor, which I would actually put that on the positive side because it's memorable.
It's so memorable. Like, how many times do they put the camera just on the coach during the game
and catch them at the exact moment
and just see him look over and say, can't play Cantor.
Yeah, that cameraman was on it that night.
Oh, yeah. Shouts to the cameraman, honestly. That was great.
So a grade of D, I gave this the Joffrey trade. So this is the Joffrey Laverne trade where we traded 2 seconds for Joffrey Laverne, who played for OKC for a minute.
Yeah.
We were briefly excited about him.
Yeah.
Didn't work out. And in retrospect, it's like, why even bother? Why did we bother?
Just don't do it. Next time, don't.
So these are like why bother trades in the D. And then F, obviously Harden trade. Obvious reference there.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go through the trades of 2020, the autumn of Sam. First one up, and this is in chronological order. Abdul Nader and Chris Paul to Phoenix for Ty Jerome, Kelly Oubre Jr., Jalen LeCue, Ricky Rubio, and a 2022 Phoenix first, which was top 12 protected, which was then traded to Denver for a top 5 protected. How would you grade that trade? Both at the time, because I do think it's hard to do trade grades, because I think the grade would be different at the time versus now. I think this trade is like obviously good now because of what happened with those picks.
Yes. I mean, I would put it as the second Melo trade. I
So
think
a B. Okay.
I think it's a good trade. I don't think it's like outrageous. I remember having hopes that maybe they could get that. I think they had the 10th pick in the draft that year. The Suns did. Yeah. Then they wasted it anyways, taking Jalen Smith. So they should have just given it to us anyways. So I think that I had hopes that they could get some pick like that. Clearly that wasn't on the table. And I think also the Thunder wanted something, down the road anyways. And that's what they got. And I don't think they thought necessarily that Chris Paul is going to turn the Suns into the best regular season team in the NBA. And that somehow happened. But yeah, I think it's a good trade. I don't think it's anything insane, but I think it's a good trade.
And it was a very good trade, obviously, for Phoenix, because they end up giving up the 30th pick, the worst first round pick you could possibly give up, for Chris Paul, who kind of changed their team.
Yep.
So very, very good for them. I still remember, though, at that time, as good as his season was with OKC in the 3-guard lineup, teams weren't falling over themselves to try to trade him away from the Thunder.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember Suns fans being pretty split on that trade, like having to talk themselves into it, because the stink of Houston was like still on CP3 a little bit, even though he had just had this really good season, had been an all-star again. There was this feeling of like, okay, that was great, but he's still super old, and we could immediately go back to what was happening those last couple of years in Houston.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I remember coming up with fake trades, like Philadelphia was one where I was like, they could use.
Good Lord, they should have done that.
That would have been amazing. And the thing is, like, it didn't take a whole lot to do that trade, because the Thunder had already gotten the value that they wanted by making the Russell Westbrook trade. And if they could just get anything positive for an aging Chris Paul and send him to a really good team, like, you could have done it. I mean, look at who they got: Ty Jerome, Oubre, LeCue, Rubio, and 1 first.
Yeah, protected first. So, like, Philly could have done that trade.
Almost any team in the league could have done this trade.
Idiots.
And it obviously worked out for the Thunder. So yeah, that's a B. That's a B trade.
Next trade: Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers for Danny Green and a LA first, which ends up being the 28th pick, and that was in that year's draft. So 2020.
Yeah, I think this is. Can I factor in everything that happened afterwards?
You could do both. Like, how much does it change for you?
I think it goes from a B to an A. I think it goes from a second Melo trade to a
really
SGA trade.
Why do you say that?
I mean, basically, you turn Schroeder into 2 firsts and Micic, and you get the 30th pick in the draft.
Okay.
I mean, like, that's insane. Like, that's crazy. And like, all you had to do was basically take on money that you needed to spend anyways. Like, you were going to have to spend money anyways, because they had shed so much cash with all the trades they did. Like, you were going to have to do it. And so you could do it by giving somebody a bloated contract, or you could actually get something in return, which is what they did. And they just took advantage of the fact that they didn't need to make their team better. In fact, they wanted to go the other way. And they just, I mean, I just think about like what Will Dawkins did with the Wizards and how he got no first, this past summer.
Oh yeah.
And like had some decent players, but like couldn't turn anybody into anything of value. Where Presti is able to leverage different things against each other to get these picks and to turn Dennis Schroeder, who was they had to give a protected first and Melo to get him. And then obviously he had a really nice run with Oklahoma City and then gained some value. And that's why you got the first. But then flipped Danny Green again to Philly, who was desperate to get off of Al Horford's deal. I mean, that is genius level trades right there. I mean, that's wild.
And this is kind of why the second Melo trade is RB, because you keep playing that Melo trade out, and it is pretty wild what it ends up as.
Yeah.
Because you do get not just Micic, but that Philly pick that's only top 6 protected and then top 4 protected. Like, that's where all of this eventually ends up. Okay, so next, now this is a big one, Andrew. 2020 second OKC gives, became Cassius Winston, and a 2024 second Memphis's pick to the Wizards for a 2020 second, which became Vít Krejci, and they got Admiral Schofield. What do you think about that trade?
This is like definitely what's the D version? What's the D?
Joffrey
trade. It's like, why bother? Like, what's going on here? The only beef I would have there, and maybe why I would call it an F, is because you took Vít Krejci. You took Vít Krejci at 37. I remember he was not in Sam Veciini's top 100. Top 100.
Top 100.
And it's not like there's anybody crazy that went after him. So that's why I can't like give it an F, because if there was like so much talent after then I would just be like, oh my gosh, what an absolute mistake. Like, guys that are still in the league, Sam Merrill, Paul Reed,
Isaiah Joe,
which we got anyways for nothing. So all
Trey
good.
Jones, that was a good pick.
Yeah, Trey Jones is at 41.
Nick Richards, good pick. Kenyon Martin Jr., good pick. But yeah, there's nothing crazy.
There's nothing crazy.
But it was crazy to take Vít.
It was
especially because not only was he a complete unknown, not on Sam Vecini's top 100 board, he was also coming off an ACL injury.
Coming off an ACL.
So like, you knew he probably wasn't going to play that much the first season. It was not at the level of God, I'm just blanking on the guy's name. Guy who's been on the podcast.
Eustace.
Yes, Eustace. Not on the level of that, because that was a first round pick. But similar in just the like, who?
Like, wait, what?
Why are we doing this? Yeah. So that fits right in for a Joffrey trade.
Yeah. That's I think that's a good one. I think we could even rename it the Vít Krejci trade after this if we wanted to.
But I don't know if he's still in the league. He was in the league as recently as last season.
Yeah, I don't know.
Playing with the Hawks.
Yeah, I think he got waived by the Hawks. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yes, he was waived on August 16th. So we're coming up on the 1 month anniversary of that.
Let's celebrate. Wave day.
All right, next one. Another juicy one. A 2021 second that did not convey to Boston for Vincent Poirier plus cash. What do you think about that?
Well, shouts to Vinny Sexpants, who I thought might actually make the roster. And he did not make the roster. Basically, the Thunder got a little cash in this. This is definitely the Joffrey. This is a Joffrey. Again, it's like, why bother? I'm glad the ownership got some money. Cool. Is that enough to make it above a Joffrey? No. Like,
wow. Do you know how old Vincent Poirier is?
No.
He's 29.
Wow.
He came in the league as a 26-year-old. Man, they love French guys. Because with Olivier Sarr, Vincent Poirier, obviously have Ousmane Dieng, Teo,
Joffrey.
Was Joffrey French?
Sounds French. I don't know if he is. I just threw that out there, just not really knowing.
All right, let's double check just in case there's any huge Joffrey fans. Yes, he was born in Mulhouse, France.
See? Yeah, that is a lot of French players.
A lot of French players. Interesting. We have a pipeline. Probably infuriates Michele. Okay.
He said he likes France now.
Now he likes France. Yeah,
He's all in on France.
He's such
now.
a flip flopper.
He's
Such a flip flopper.
He's flipping flopping.
Okay, this next trade is a 3-teamer. With 3 teamers, I'm just going to talk about the OKC side of it. I don't really care what happened in the rest of it. So they traded the 25th pick, which was the pick that they got from the Jeremy Grant trade when he went to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
They traded that pick to the Knicks. They traded the 28th pick and Ricky Rubio to the Timberwolves. And then Minnesota traded James Johnson. Totally forgot that he was once technically a part of the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
The 17th pick and a 2024 second, which was Minnesota's own, to OKC. So basically, OKC trades 2 firsts in that draft, the 2020 draft, to move up to 17, and they also get an additional second and James Johnson. How are you feeling about that one?
It's looking pretty. It's looking pretty bad. Because of the talent that's in this draft, in these spots. I mean, this part of the draft was particularly juicy. Like, there's a lot of really good players, in the 20 to 30 range. I mean, the guys that are 20 to 30, Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickley, Peyton Pritchard, Jaden McDaniels, and Desmond Bane. Like those, there's some really, really good players. Like Bane and McDaniels and Quickley and Maxey are all going to have a chance to be all-stars. Will they all be all-stars? No. But will probably 2 of those guys make an all-star team? I think the answer is yes. There's some true talent in that range.
Yeah.
That the Thunder traded out of. So yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best.
Though, Andrew, if you do get Bane, of course you probably just like to have Bane, but that he's good enough with SGA where that probably that significantly changes their draft positioning.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they end up in the second spot drafting Chet if you have Bane. Now on the flip side, you have Bane. Like Desmond Bane's very good.
He's really good.
So it's not all bad, and he would actually be incredible next to Shea.
Yeah,
having that kind of spacing. But oh well. So what are you gonna give? What are you gonna give that trade? That 3-teamer? I know you still believe in Poku.
I still really like Poku. I like him. I think he's cool.
I like him.
But I would have to. I think this is probably a Harden deal. Like this is just.
Whoa! Wow! I thought you were gonna say Joffrey. You're going Harden.
I mean, it's just. I mean, if maybe Poku breaks out this year and he's awesome, possible. But he's also entering the last year of his rookie scale deal, and he has to have a great year this year in order to make it because they have more picks incoming. It's really inconsequential for the most part. Like they have a really good team. I mean, if they had done this and then like whiffed on, let's say they drafted Jonathan Kuminga instead of Giddey, and then whiffed on the 2 picks in the next draft as well. I mean, then you could start to think like, oh my gosh, now you just don't even think about it all that much. Like if they would have taken, I don't know, Mark Williams or something at 12, if they took like Jang or Mark Williams instead of Jalen Williams, then you just be like, oh my gosh, like what have we done? But I can't look back at it now and say it wasn't worth the swing because I do think it was worth swinging on Poku.
It sounds like you're bumping it up to a Joffrey. The way you're
just
talking.
To see. But with the talent that was available, it was just not a good deal. I mean, it just was not. I don't know. You can't really argue it at the time. Now, in hindsight, you can't argue it. I think at the time it was defensible because,
for sure,
you were taking a swing on the youngest player in the draft and a guy that had a really high ceiling, and he could still work out. Maybe I need to bump it to a Joffrey. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair.
I do think you have to factor in that they probably wanted to tank the CP3 year. And we kind of know that based on like CP3 telling us at one point, like they're finally letting me ball, there was clearly a plan and he actually has talked about it where like Sam had kind of laid out this plan for him,
Yeah.
and he was like, "No, I just want to play. Like, let's go." So they probably wanted to tank. So you're coming off this year where you wanted to tank, and now like your best picks are 25 and 28 in this draft because you lost your pick to Philly because of that Mike Muscala shot. And so I certainly understand the urge to want to like move up and just try to get something high ceiling to kind of boost this rebuild. So I certainly understand the motivation there. It has not worked out as of yet. And as you mentioned, unlike some of these other trades where you look who went after and it's like, who cares? This one, there's like multiple names where you basically throw a dart and you would have potentially a really good player.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were just some nice players in there that you could use for sure. But it's also one that I don't think anybody should lose sleep over. That's probably why it should be Joffrey, because I don't think anybody is losing sleep over it. I don't think anybody's upset about it even still. But there was an opportunity to use 2 of those picks to get guys that could really play. And, who knows if that, what that looks like. I mean, you change one little thing, it changes everything within the lottery. It's like 1 or 2 games changes everything with every team.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the outcomes would have been. But yeah, I mean, if you ended up with Jaden McDaniels and Emmanuel Quickly instead, like those are easily 2 top 6 rotation players on your team.
But you at least understand why they wouldn't have taken someone like Jalen McDaniels, though. Like he's not really.
He was risky. He had attitude problems at Washington.
But also, like, he's not, even now, you wouldn't think of him as like, oh, he's an obvious fit for this version of the Thunder team.
Yeah,
like, he fits in some ways, but.
Yeah, it's true. None of those guys are truly Thunder, quote unquote, Thunder guys. Maybe Quickly is more of that. But none of those guys are necessarily, great fits for the Thunder in that way. You could argue that Bane is, but I am not for sure that they would have taken those guys. Where Poku, like you look at Poku's and what he is as an NBA player, 7 feet tall, he can pass, he can rebound, he could shoot it. All theoretical at this point, but you can see why they would have taken him. And also, you just watch the way that he played against like the youngsters in Greece. He was really good in those games. And Presti even said this. I remember Presti saying this, that Will Dawkins was the guy who headed up their scouting department at the time. This was like a Will Dawkins pick. Was Alexa Pokashevsky. So just kind of interesting.
Deflecting blame. Sorry, I'm having a refrigerator delivered, Andrew. Brand new fridge coming to the house today.
You getting crushed ice in the door?
What's up? No, I never want a fridge ever again with ice or water because they break all the time.
Really?
Every fridge I've ever had with those features has broken within 3 years and cannot be. I do not want to fix it and pay the money.
Man, we're doing great with ours then. Ours is ours is going
you just jinxed it. It's gonna break today.
We had another one for 5 years, did great too.
Nope, wrong. I got a dumb fridge. I got the dumbest fridge I could find that does not do anything.
Have you seen some of the fridges now that have like full screens on them? That have
so like
TVs and whatnot.
Samsung, they like make the most obnoxious fridges, and based on like all the consumer reports, they have the worst fridges because no one will repair them. So if they break, you're kind of screwed. But yeah, they have this new. Have you seen the knock thing, where it's like it looks like a tinted window, and you go up and knock on it twice, and it lights up, and you can see in the fridge. It's so stupid. I mean, it's cool. It's very fun. I did it on every single Samsung when we were shopping, but I do not need it.
No, you don't. You definitely don't need it, but that is pretty cool.
Okay, next trade. Now we've had three Joffreys in a row. We got to pick this up. Kelly Oubre Jr. to Golden State for a 2021 second, which became Aaron Wiggins, and a 2021 top 20 protected Golden State first, which did not convey, became a 2021 second, which was then shipped to New York and became Miles McBride. What do you think about the Kelly Oubre deal?
So this was like a very contentious subject for you and I at the time. And
I just wanted a young wing. Let's boost his value.
I think you could argue that the Oubre deal could go in the Hall of Fame because of this particular argument.
Yeah, but unless you're getting back, because the other scenario is that you're bringing back some veteran who's on a long deal.
Yeah, or like
right?
2 years left on like Rubio's deal or something like that.
Yeah, and if it's a veteran like Rubio who you feel is going to be good for your culture,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're just trading for like a disgruntled veteran who would much rather be somewhere else, and you're basically just counting down the days until you buy him out, I don't know. I'd personally just rather give Kelly Oubre some money for his next few years when we're not going to be paying anyone anyways.
Would you do Oubre
or someone like him?
Would you do Oubre for James Johnson and the 17th pick?
No, I wouldn't.
You're nuts.
I've thought about this. I've thought about it, and I wouldn't do it anymore. Who cares? 17th pick, who cares at this point? We have so many 17th picks coming to us.
That's Poku, man. That's the Poku trade.
I think you can get to 17 without trading Kelly Oubre.
What's the
Kelly
trade,
Oubre
bro?
should be an asset. I think of him more highly than I think of Dennis Schroeder.
Whoa! Wow! Oh, wow! I didn't. Okay,
just
talk me into this. Talk me into this because I'm not there. I'm not there.
Just as an asset, because as we talked about, you're going to have to.
Okay, we can stop now.
Okay. In my defense, first of all, I did say some smart things in there. I would say
I correctly predicted the Poku trade in that pod too.
And I correctly predicted that you didn't need to give up Kelly Oubre to get to 17, which was true.
It was technically true. We were both like really on point there.
It's funny how we were both zeroing in on the 7. It was like it was already decided. Like they're moving up to 17. They're drafting Poku. That's just what's going to happen. This was before the draft that we're talking about this. That's very funny.
Yeah, we knew something, huh?
Listen, okay. In my defense, I would maybe still argue that I'd rather have Kelly Oubre than like just some random vet that you're just letting expire. I mean, they did have a lot of money. Now, the thing with Kelly Oubre was that he wasn't expiring. And so you would have had to give him a deal.
Yeah.
And even though he did have a very nice first year in Charlotte, he obviously did not play well in Golden State. I would agree that what they got is probably as good as you're going to do. Now, comparing him to Dennis Schroeder, I mean, if that pick conveys, you probably get about the same value for both of those guys.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like too far off. I do remember thinking that pick was going to convey just because it was Golden State. Now, this is the year that they end up just actually, this isn't their James Wiseman year, but this is the year they end up getting Moody with the 14th pick.
Mm-hmm.
So it was close, but it wasn't really close. Like we kind of knew midway through the season, like we're probably not getting this.
Yeah, they were not. They needed to be a top 10 team,
but
that to work out.
To make you feel better, here are the picks from 21 to 30. So these are the picks we could have gotten if Golden State was a little better. Mm-hmm. Keon Johnson, Isaiah Jackson, Usman Garuba had them. Josh Christopher, Quentin Grimes, Bones Highland, Cam Thomas, Jaden Springer, Day'Ron Sharp, Santi Aldama. They probably take Santi Aldama based on what we know.
Yeah,
now.
They would have taken Santi. Which he's good, but he's also kind of like a whatever player.
We would be in love with him if
we would love him. We would absolutely love him, but in the grand scheme of things, he's not changing your life.
What do you give?
I mean, my whole point in like, hey, trade Kelly Oubre Jr. because we want to. I want to give good developmental minutes to the players on this team that need shots, and most of that was for SGA. And would Kelly
you didn't want Oubre cramping his style?
I don't want Oubre cramping anybody's style. He also is like the most anti-Thunder player maybe in the NBA.
Okay, true, but I didn't know that back then. Okay, we were just starting the rebuild. We didn't know what a new Thunder guy was. Okay,
yeah.
Whatever.
This is. I mean, they got Wiggins in the deal.
Yeah,
Technically.
I mean, makes it good.
So
Makes it not bad.
what's the C level again?
C is the Cantor trade.
Yeah,
you can
Cantor
argue
trade.
both sides.
Yeah, Cantor trade. Sure, I'll
Okay.
take that because I do
Okay.
think it's not totally whatever because you got some real assets in the deal. One of them didn't convey. You can't do anything about that, but they made good use of the Wiggins pick. So yeah,
I didn't know Andrew was going to play that, and hopefully he edits that out. You can only
that was
listen
like
to it on YouTube.
it's a fun memory. It was like really
Yeah, super fun. I do remember being passionate about Kelly Oubre for some reason.
You were there was so much passion in like text
No.
groups and on the pod, and I mean that's the kind of stuff like I re-listened to some of the podcasts that we did back then. It was, I mean, honestly, it's like pretty fun to podcast about, just like the complete flipping of a team.
Yeah, it is. Hey, listeners, if you can remember anything dumb Andrew said, let us know, and I will find the clip.
There's plenty of things.
Okay, now we've had three Joffreys and a Cantor, but I think we're about to get a good grade. Next one, 4-team trade. Steven Adams to New Orleans.
We have SGA in there too for the Schroeder trade. Yes.
No, I'm just talking about the last 4 that we did.
Oh, okay.
We've been on a bad run.
Okay. Yeah.
Steven Adams to New Orleans for Zylan Cheatham, Josiah Gray, Darius Miller, Kenrich Williams, a 2023 second, which became Hunter Tyson for the Nuggets, and a 2024 second yet to be conveyed. Denver traded us a top 14 protected first as part of this deal as well, which became Nick Smith Jr. So Charlotte eventually got that. And then Milwaukee traded George Hill to OKC. That was all in one deal. So we basically sent out Steven Adams.
Yeah.
We got back George Hill of relevant things. George Hill, a top 14 protected pick, 2 seconds, and Kenrich Williams. That's kind of what it ended up being.
Yeah. I mean, this is a second mellow deal. Like it's a B. Like this is a good trade.
I think so.
I think it's hard to argue that it's not. Some of it just kind of, and it's not random because I do think the Thunder specifically wanted Kenrich in the trade, but the fact that he became essentially the best player in the deal, like I don't know that if Memphis called the Thunder right now and said, "Hey, will you Steven Adams for Kenrich straight up? Would you do it?" I don't know that you would. I'm not necessarily, which is wild, and also the fact that you got extra picks. You have a pick that hadn't conveyed yet. So yeah, I mean, I would say this is definitely a second mellow, a B type of deal. It's a good deal.
Okay, we have we have 4 trades left. I'm grouping 3 of them because I have to be done soon. There's a refrigerator coming. Okay, the first one, Danilo Gallinari to the Hawks for a second and a TPE.
This is Joffrey.
Jalen LeCue to Indiana for TJ Leaf and a 2027 second and TPE.
It's Joffrey for now, but
Super Joffrey.
The 27 pick could be interesting, but it's so far away still that I'm just like Joffrey.
And then a 3-team trade. We traded James Johnson to Dallas for Justin Jackson and a 2023 second, which became Max Lewis, and a 2026 second. And we also got Trevor Ariza briefly. So we basically traded James Johnson for 2 seconds. That might be. What do you think about that?
I mean, that's probably C Cantor trade where it's like, yeah, whatever. Sure. Could.
Okay. Final trade. This one's worth talking about. Terrence Ferguson plus Danny Green plus Vincent Poirier to Philly for Al Horford with a pick that became Teo, Vasily Micic, and a 2025 top 6 protected first.
This is another SGA level. I mean, this is the second part of like why the Schroeder trade was SGA level, because I think you have to tie it all together. But to get, I mean, essentially Dennis Schroeder, you get a first, you get Teo Maledon, who is obviously a whatever player, but I was very excited about him at the time. You get Micic, who's going to play for this team. You get a 2025 top 6 protected first, which is becoming more interesting every single day. That's insane. The value is insane because it is for the Thunder. It's just renting the cap space is all it is. I don't know when I need to look back and see if I can find it, but I don't know when the Micic portion of the trade was reported because I don't think it was initially in the report. Because I've been kind of looking back, and even in the podcast, like we didn't ever talk about him. So it must have like surfaced whenever like the trade was like finalized and sent off because like the initial report didn't include him, and he's coming over this year. We don't know how good he is. We don't know what that situation will look like.
But if the first alone.
But if he's any good, like that's insane. But yeah, getting the first is crazy. And
then they a year later they flip Horford into another first, and that was the Şengün first.
Yeah.
Which then it becomes Usman Jang.
Yeah.
So you really get 2 firsts out of this deal where you're giving up Terrence Ferguson, Danny Green, and Vincent Poirier.
You get 3 because you started with Schroeder.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then did we get a first for Teo?
Get a first? I mean, he was a part of Did we get a first? Like, oh my gosh, no. Yeah. No, that's an
easy A.
Yeah, that's an easy A. That's an insane trade. That's crazy.
Now, I will say the one downside to this summer is if you look at the draft, Poku at 17, Teo at 34, Veet at 37. One of Sam's weaker drafts overall.
Yeah, it's not great. It's a lot of swings for the fences and just like, hey, these are those are mystery men for the most part, all 3 of them. And you're just like, all right, maybe one of them works out. But that's also at 17, 34, and 37. It's not like it was at like 7, 12, and whatever.
True, but as you mentioned, there were a lot of names between 17 and 30, and then even like Xavier Tillman went right after Teo. We could have drafted Daniel Oturu and then prevented the Daniel Oturu game.
That would be the only thing that I would please.
We should have traded the 34 and 37 for 33, traded up 1, draft Daniel Oturu, prevent the Oturu game. We could have Evan Mobley on this team right now.
That's true.
What if that is what happened? Okay, so Andrew, what is your final grade for the Autumn of Sam 2020?
I mean, to net the one, I think they nailed the Mark Dagnall hire. I think that's
true. That's a big part of it.
I think it's really good. I think all the trades were really good. When you think about what a team like Washington has done and the assets that they've gotten back in their deals, I think that the replenishing of assets that Sam did during this time, and obviously the big replenishment was with PG and Russ, but to continue to just churn these players that had very little to no value, to a lot of people, and to churn these assets into like legitimate stuff for your team, I think is pretty underrated. And during a pandemic, is kind of wild. So I think this is I'm going to give it a B. I think that there's obviously some upside that could have been had, above this, where if like just like one of your draft picks works out, and Poku, I guess, still technically could, but when you compare him to everybody else, it was such a weird draft because these guys went like 6 or 7 months without playing 5-on-5.
And we also had like a year and a half to dissect them.
It had too long to dissect them. And it was such a weird draft that I think there was a lot of guys that got misevaluated.
Yeah.
Throughout this process. Cause you like look at some of the guys in the top 10, and then you look at some of the guys in like the bottom 10 of the first round. You're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of mess ups, but there's a lot of really good players in that draft, which was thought to be like a bad draft, a weak draft, where you have Edwards and LaMelo and Pat Williams and Vassell and Halliburton. Let's see, Maxey and Bain and McDaniels. Like there's a lot of good players. So in a draft that was thought to be weak, that's where I have like a little bit of excitement with the 24 draft, which is also thought to be a weak draft. but there's going to be players in there that make an impact. And the Thunder are also in more of a position to draft role players and not necessarily have to, and probably don't want to swing for the fences. And so if there's just players like that, similar to that in this next draft, you're feeling pretty good with the amount of picks that the Thunder have coming to them. So it's pretty exciting.
All right. Well, that was the Autumn of Sam 2020 final grade from Andrew, a B. And it could be bumped up depending on how Poku plays. Let's see. Can Poku get us to a B+? Perhaps.
If Poku's a top 8 rotation player, bump it to an A.
Ooh. Okay.
Bumping up to an A.
To that.
Thanks so much for listening to our show. Hope you guys have an awesome Wednesday. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.